Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the Immigrant Section. Today with me. Yo, Mark Corless. I'm just going to say, what's going on, brother?
Yo, chilling, hanging, staying
How are
warm.
you, man? Appreciate you coming over.
Well, yeah, I'm doing well, man. Just kind of hanging out. You know, the holidays are coming up. You know, doing all that kind of stuff. Not going back home this year, so.
All the director stuff stopped? Oh, you're not going to the
I'm not going back
east?
Back east. No,
Halifax.
I'm not going back. Yeah, Dartmouth, actually. Which is
Dartmouth,
right
which is
next to
being like
Halifax.
saying like Scarborough.
Exactly.
Yeah, Scarborough.
I know, yeah. Dartmouth.
Are there rough characters from Dartmouth? Yeah, they are. I used to be out there.
Certainly. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Halifax is like a peninsula. It's like its own little like section. Dartmouth is like a...
I actually really
ghetto.
liked in the Navy days. I spent some months there. I really fuck with the East is not necessarily the most beautiful. It has one of my favorite people in Canada. The East of like the Atlantic provinces.
Like your favorite type of people?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're chill
Just
as
that
hell.
vibe is awesome, and it seems like it has the most history. Because like when people settled in Canada, they settled there first.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well,
I mean, I'm talking about before, like Native Americans, whatever you want to say.
Right.
Like before that, like the settlers who came from Europe. So that the East feels old. You know, you ever go to the States and you go to places that you're like, wow, there's history here 200 years.
Yeah.
Toronto feels like there's like, doesn't really go back past 60 years.
Well, Toronto's one of those metropolitan cities.
Like a new thing with no...
Well, exactly right. Yeah, there is that deep history, but it's buried. Halifax never really just like at one
you
point
see
stopped.
old buildings and stuff like that. You're like,
Yeah.
this has been here for a while.
Iron gates. I remember growing up and thinking that was kind of normal, and then here it's like there's no small like wooden bright yellow houses or like bright blue kind of fishing houses and stuff. That's
No.
really common in Halifax.
What's
and
with the
Dartmouth.
colors?
I don't know. I think it's just like whenever you go to like small fishing villages in like England and like in Ireland and Scotland, all the fishing villages are like bright yellow and bright blue, and it's got like that folk art vibe.
Portugal's got that, and they bring into fishing.
Oh yeah, it's true. I guess a lot of people do, but there's something about that, like that folk art. Like there's a lot of like
Maybe it's visible from the water, so as they return home,
Sure.
they see colors and they rejoice that they're returning to land.
That could be it. I know nothing about where I'm
Yeah, and the same here. And let's move on.
from. I know nothing about where I'm from.
My man Mark here is one of the most talented directors of photography in the city.
Oh,
You may
my
not know his name yet, but you will soon. He's been shooting everything I've ever been involved with. You've been involved with because you just got the hustle.
Word.
You got that artistic hustle, and you're fucking amazing at what you do.
And I can't quit comedians. I can't stop hanging out with comedians.
Yeah, we do what we can.
It's true. You know what I mean? Who said that? Like I can quit comedy, but I can't quit comedians. It's true.
Man, shut up,
It's
bitch.
true.
You're
It's
like, I
true.
love it. I can't get enough of this guy. Shut up,
Exactly.
bitch.
I'm just like, entertain me. Keep going.
Yo, but
No, there's something about it though.
But we've been talking recently at your place, and there was a very interesting conversation we had pretty much about, like, you're on a lot of sets these days as, like, cameraman, as that lady called you.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Handling the camera.
Hello, cameraman.
And there's a topic I wanted to talk about for a while. It's the idea of ethnic budgets. You ever watch a commercial and you can tell that whoever let's say it's 5 people in the commercial, you can tell like they came down to that specific combination of ethnicities. They needed the female to be this and the guy to be that, or they're open to it. Like, I'll just give you an example. One time I did a Tim Hortons commercial. No, I didn't. I auditioned for one, and I'm in the waiting area, and the commercial is a construction scene. 3 people
Right.
are eating like on their break in a construction site. It was 1 man, 2 women, and there's like 40 of us in the audition waiting area. And
like with like the hard hat and like
no,
the
we
vest
wouldn't have that. And the real noob. That's how you know who's really a noob in acting. They show up exactly dressed as what the role like. Like they'll go buy a reflective vest and shit.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
dude, you're fucked.
Jeez. Hey, I'm construction man.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there and I'm watching. It's always 1 woman, 2 men. And the idea is we're eating sandwiches in this commercial. But what was funny to me is it'd be different combinations of ethnicities that would go in. 2 white guys and a black girl, a Hispanic girl, an Asian guy and a black guy, a white guy, a black guy, and a Asian girl. And like just combinations of ethnicities. And I guess later on, producers or people sit there eating like Thai food for lunch and watching all these videos and deciding like which of these combinations is going to sell the most fucking Tim Hortons sandwiches, right? So, right? Essentially.
Sure, yeah, of course.
They kept bringing
Yeah,
in
it's
different.
an
That's
ad.
all it was. One
Yeah.
lady, two females, and the ethnicities were interchangeable. So that whole thing made me think of the idea of like ethnic budgets. You always see it, and I know you behind the camera. We were talking about you were on set on that one show. We don't have to name shows just because this shit's still airing, and it's probably trouble for you if we do. So we won't name names, but
No
it's
names.
like now that the industry has changed, where everyone in front of the camera has to be like POC, has to be this or that,
Right, gender diverse.
Exactly. But what the interesting thing you told me was everyone behind the camera hasn't changed for decades.
Yeah,
It's the people in front of the camera that are changing with whichever way the wind is blowing. Like, oh, like transgender, okay, 4 of them in front of the camera. And it's just the old, like, plastic face, like, women and producers in the background being like, oh, I love her. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh yeah. Very hesitant. Yeah, what is it? Very like. Yeah, it's
I know this is a touchy subject for you as a white guy.
It's a touchy
As a white guy, but yo, this
It's a
is the
touchy
immigrant
subject.
section, and I give you the you can even say the N-word right now if you want. No,
Oh,
okay,
look,
don't say
okay,
it. Don't
let me
say
try.
it.
Let me
I
try.
got a black guy in there just waiting, a real black guy, right?
the hard R or the
yeah,
A?
yeah,
Which one
he's
can I
gonna
do?
come out.
Yeah, okay.
But no, but seriously though, like
Yeah.
it's weird. I get it. I always see it with white guys. Like, it's so weird for the ecosystem. It's like you can't say anything, but just
Right.
speak freely. And obviously, let's just not mention sets and productions, but just speak freely.
Thank you, boss. I appreciate that. No, well, from what
Bigot! He's a fucking bigot!
from what I see is that too much. No,
Yeah,
it looks like
there's
too
too
much
many
color.
blacks.
Exactly, I gotta tell you.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah. This I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, that's Asian. That's good. Yeah.
You like that?
No, I like that.
Ooh.
But yeah, well, it's tricky because the what is it? The common narrative, let's say, is so like low resolution. It's so simplified. So it's hard to speak on these big, broad topics without somebody taking your words and then kind of just like throwing them into this big abyss, and then they land on these general ideas. They're not taken for their specifics.
I got you. Yeah.
Which is to say, the same thing with people. It's like, from what I see anyway, it's less on artistic merit and more on like political agenda. That's almost like a cliche thing to say, but it seems to be true.
It's true. It's 100%
But
true.
to your point, like I bet they would come in with like, okay, fair enough, we'll have 2 Asian women and like a black guy. Then we'll have like a black woman and like 2 white guys. Then like, all this different gender and race mix up and stuff. I bet ultimately it still comes down to like how good the individual performer is. It still comes down to.
I don't think so, because
there's a
I'm
nugget
talking
of that,
about
no?
commercial auditions. Commercial auditions, it
true.
does not. When
But
I
they still have to be like beautiful, and they still have to be
Yes,
like,
yeah,
they can't be like not actors.
But you were talking about a question of skill, not beauty and aesthetics.
right? I guess so. And I guess with commercials, I mean, what is the, is there,
It is strictly
right.
looks.
It strictly looks, and more.
The first year I came into the acting industry, I booked the most I've ever booked because I was a new face.
right.
A new face in the roster of auditions, right? So I booked like 5 things. No acting experience. I mean, anybody can act decently if you don't have fear of being in front of the camera, which a lot of people do. But I've learned in my hundreds and hundreds of acting auditions, if it's a commercial, and casting has pretty much told me this, it's the look they're going for. It doesn't matter. 90% of it's SOC, silent on camera roles. You don't even talk. You're just an ethnic face being like this face. If you're watching the video, if you're not, think of every like Fox, like if you imagine watching a show and they say coming up next, or they plug the new show and fall. Imagine that those back-to-back black guys or whatever. This face, that is pretty much my whole acting career. Like I go into an audition and you do one of these.
Yeah, it's simple, easy.
And you never book it because it's like some blacker guy got it or more
Exactly.
light skin. You know what I mean? Like whatever they're looking for.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me. But I mean, it's hard for me because when you talk about this, it's hard for me to not like take it into like a bigger political term because it is a political thing.
Oh, 100%.
Like it just becomes like this obsession with identity politics. Did you ever hear that term? Identity politics?
Like who we stand with diversity.
Well, it's where you like you judge people on their primary identities. Like you judge people not necessarily as individuals, but what group they belong to. So if they're trans, they're a trans person. They're not the individual in that group. Or a black person, they're
the blacks.
They're a black guy.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not necessarily the individual at hand or whatever it is. Because those are kind of simplified, kind of corrupt categorizations anyway. Like, what is a black guy per se? Ranges huge. Like Shaquille O'Neal and like some.
And fucking Logic.
And Logic. That's what I mean, right? Yeah, well, there you go.
Logic to Shaquille O'Neal.
Those
and
aren't the same people. Those aren't the same people
Logic
at all.
is 98% white. The fact that this guy said nigga every time. I'm like, man, you got up with the technicality. You got a little something in there. A little something in there, and then you're getting off with the technicality.
But that's kind of interesting, because what's his name? Be Real from Cypress Hill drops the N-word a lot in his rap. And he's
light-skinned as
fuck. He's not, but is he black at all?
If he drops it.
I think he's Hispanic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's funny. It's just pretty much as long as you're not Arabs. Well, look at French Montana. Drops it left and right. DJ Khaled, left and right. As long as you're not white, that's the rule. As long as you're
not white. Yeah. That's fair, I guess, yeah. It is a white, it's a white person's term, I guess.
It was it was created, so it's like the vendetta of it is that like only we now can use it and own it and use it, blah, 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 whatever.
And that goes on to a whole other topic about how there's a big fear of language. But that's a big topic right there. But
what do you mean, like just with specific words?
Well, I mean, you hear a lot of like words are violence, for example. When it's just like it's like for my personal beliefs, it's like freedom of speech and like being able to. You should be able to say anything, really, especially in the artistic realm. You should be able to.
That's the beauty of a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, anything you want.
Yeah.
And it should be met with other discussion. Like when you have a bad, horrible idea, it's not good to say like, don't say those horrible things, because you're still going to think them.
Yeah.
So it's like you should be able to say them so we can have a discussion, so we can sort them out. So it doesn't become this kind of underground like resentment. It doesn't build to be resentment. Yeah, but I think there is something weird about the obsession with like group diversity, and it's kind of like politics are eating away at artistic merit in a way.
So right now, the way I'm doing a tally. Right now, you got nigger, faggot, and gook, and what else do we have?
What? Oh, for like the words you can't say?
Yeah, you can't. These are like there's no scenario where. I think, and I'm talking. This is a podcast, so we can say anything. That's the beauty about podcasts. Yeah, right. I'm talking about like on CBC or like you on set, words that are not. There's no reason to say them, or there's no justification that will allow those productions for them to say.
Well, it's even uncomfortable even to like
HBO, sure, but I'm talking about Canada right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think it's like a very loud minority, but like even words like he, him, and like pronouns are a big thing now.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? And you have to have pronouns in your bio. It always weirds me out when people have pronouns in their bio. That is so political, dude. Well, that's a red hot topic. The
so
trans
political,
topic.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to add. Tranny.
It's like, what's
to your
your
list.
name? Tranny. Right. But that one's still kind of like people are being like, "Can you say tranny?"
Oh no.
Like 15 years ago, people would be like, "Why can't I say faggot?" Nobody right now is really saying that.
And I love the word. I love the word fag. I think it's such a good word.
Oh, it's great.
I know,
it's great. It's just got hard consonants in it,
so
and it hits hard. And it's not. If you mean it as a slur, it hits hard.
Yeah. Right. Well, exactly.
But if you don't, it's like, oh, this guy's being fag. Like that kind of thing. It's just like, but whatever, it is what it is. Like you could live without it.
Well, there's something about like it's predominantly masculine as well to do that kind of stuff. There's like this I'm not really sure it's a very like feminine thing, and not to say male and female, but to say feminine and masculine, and to say that like to be like a masculine, to like have this. This like love and this kind of mutual understanding that when you insult each other, it's out of love.
It's all love, yeah.
But it's a mutual thing. There's not this tension that it's like, oh, did he really mean that?
Yeah,
did he fucking say that? It's
zero.
Like, it's a way that men seem to bond, or masculine people seem to bond a little bit.
And that was one of the like that was the top of the arsenal.
Absolutely,
that was the top of the arsenal.
Oh my god, man. Yeah, like I went to art school, and I remember there's this one time I was walking out.
I already know this is gonna be funny.
I got called fag like 1,000 times.
Of course, yeah. It was in the curriculum.
I paid my toenails.
All right, you little faggots, open up
exactly.
Open up to page 6, yeah, you little fags.
I remember my professor. Yeah, he was like, "Looks like a clown's funeral in here." That's what he used to say, because everyone dressed in weird clothes, but it was always black.
Oh,
really? Like dark black clothes, but it'd be like
with the rolled up,
toques. Like a towel on their head, like some kind of crazy shit. But at one time, I was just walking down the street in Halifax, and I was just minding my own business, and some guy pulled a car over opened the door and he goes, "Faggot," and then slams it and drives away. I was like,
why did say it like that?
He goes, "Harry Potter, faggot." Yeah, because I was wearing like a yellow and orange like sweater.
I was wearing a cloak and I had a wand.
Exactly.
And it was, I was literally wearing a Harry Potter outfit, so I mean, it's understandable.
But that was funny because I wasn't really insulted by that. I was just kind of like, what? I almost appreciate. I thought it was like I appreciated it. I think I took a lot of time and effort to stop, open it up like he's gonna mug me, and then just insult me, and then drive away. It's similar like the graffiti artist. Like when you have graffiti and someone does like really bad graffiti, you're like, oh, come on. But if someone does like immaculate graffiti, you're like, okay, I'm down.
Yeah,
still vandalism.
Yeah,
still vandalism technically.
And that's one of those scenarios where you're not mad, but you're immediately excited to tell someone.
Oh, absolutely.
You're like, oh, fuck. I got a story.
It's a story in there, man. It's a story in there.
Now you got a little pep in your step.
That's
you're rushing up to your...
And,
what Biden, the vice president, the lady?
Oh, Kamala Harris.
Right when she went in, she switched her Twitter to he, her, or sorry.
I saw that.
She, whatever.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It seems
so... it's so
insincere.
I'm getting all of the LGBT. I am your ambassador now. It's like pretty much being.
Well, that's the confusing thing about the whole thing is that it is just like say the words that we want you to say and you'll be good. It's like just say like.
And it's so fake.
But exactly. But you're not thinking. You're not actually feeling that way. Kamala Harris, it's like you're just like, oh, I'm saying this and now I'm good. Or if I say this now I'm bad. Like just say something.
The politicians are literally just politicians adhere to societal norms as if it is scripture from God, as if just the same way religious people adhere to it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
you know what I mean?
Big time.
They're like, I cannot represent the people. I cannot get popular vote unless I adhere to these things. If I am a Republican, then no to abortion. Mm-hmm. Then like there's some specific ones, no to abortion, fuck homeless people. Like obviously that's on the extreme, but there's some ones at the platform that come packaged in with it.
Oh,
and you have to pretty much adhere to that.
But it's still kind
of... And on the liberal side, what happens? Right when you get in office, you got to be like, she, them.
Yeah.
When she's like, oh, this Twitter is about to increase in 10 times followership.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the moment.
Yeah.
To be an ally.
Yeah, that word ally and woke.
Oh, ally.
Yeah, to be woke and to be an ally. I'm not sure what it is.
It's such a team sport thing. It's like, are you on the team or are you against the team?
It feels like so. Yeah, it feels very insincere. It feels like it's like when you like see a very beautiful woman and she's like very attractive, and then you start talking to her for like 15 minutes and she's just dumb as a post or something.
There's nothing there.
I'm not talking about anyone specifically. That's a hypothetical situation.
Yeah,
But it's similar to that where it's like, oh, it looks pretty good and it sounds pretty good and it feels pretty good. But if I try and actually investigate into it, it becomes nothing.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before, you have all these people who are put in front of the camera of this diverse nature. And then behind the camera, it's still ran and promoted and has this tension behind it that's always been there, which is like this money capitalist kind of like selfish,
it's
weird
a business first.
That's the creepy thing
but now we have to paint it before every business. Like think about America. America just it shows this stuff a little bit easier. Like think about America, a salesperson in America in the 70s, 80s.
Right.
You went to their office, you went to a place, what are they going to have? A big American flag out there, right?
That's true. Oh, yeah. Big time.
That is like an ally to the masses.
Be proud of America.
Right? And now it's like all these shows, it's no longer, Canada never was really big, like, look at my Canadian, we were never like that patriotic.
Right.
But now our thing is, look at the faces of the show. Look at our shows and look at the faces that you're seeing. Look who is included in our productions. Look who we put our money behind. And it's like,
but
that's just because this is a strategic. You think that if you don't put your money behind these people, you're gonna look like this group of people, right? Which is outdated, and that's not a good look.
Right. There's two things there because one of them is like what that implies, and it implies that I'm compassionate towards people who've struggled. You know what I mean? Because if you're a minority, you've struggled. It's interesting. The political thing is like a religious thing because to have privilege now is to have sin. It kind of replaced the same thing.
100%. That's what we're saying. That's why you as a white guy have to tiptoe.
I'm an inherent sinner.
Yeah.
Just
you have
for
to tiptoe around everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's funny for me.
It is funny.
Just
it is
because,
funny for you.
Just because, like I said, if
you
we're
always
getting,
call me out on it.
if we're getting pulled over at if you and I in like two identical dimensions are driving the same car, getting pulled over at the same time of night, I'm sweating more than you.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm gonna bet that I don't feel as safe as you, or I feel like the power dynamic is way more polarized than you versus the police officer.
Well, have you had like pretty racist experiences from the cops?
Yeah, like stuff that like I haven't been hit or anything like that, but it's like, oh, my friend will get pulled over, and then the cop like for speeding, and I'll be in the back with like 3 friends, and the cop will be like, ask me for my license only.
He'll just ask you.
He'll
for his
ask
license?
the driver for the license, and he'll look in the back and he'll ask me for my license.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you just give it to him? Were you like, fuck it?
Yeah.
Were you
what
like,
am I gonna say? That's
No,
what I'm saying. You don't get
driving.
it.
I'm not driving.
Yeah,
No,
but it's like that power dynamic doesn't allow you to be like vocal about that. You got there's an implied power dynamic there.
Based on race.
Yeah, if the cop pulls you over and goes, "Give me your license,"
Yeah.
or ID,
Right.
I'm not gonna be like, "Fuck you."
Yeah. Neither would I. I don't think I would either.
Well, I've seen it.
You've seen people
not from fucking black guys.
You've seen some say "fuck you."
Not fuck you, but like fighting them or being like talking to them as if like why? Like that's not logical. Like having that kind of conversation.
Right.
As if they're almost like a principal, a student. Like white people talk to white people from what I've seen, they'll talk to cops like a bad student sent to the office talking to the principal.
I think you're talking about like white women will talk like that.
No, because there's still
they
that
could
white
cry
women
out
will.
of tickets,
Yeah,
women,
that's
right?
different
No,
though. Yeah, women will just pull the emotion card, or they'll just like the cop right away. Probably if it's a white cop, white girl, it's almost like a daughter. He sees a daughter right away, assuming he has a family, right?
Right.
So I get that. That's like biology. There's always that soft spot for women. I get that. I'm not gonna fight that, but I'm just saying like I've seen like my white friends talk to cops, and it's just like a different tone. There's a level of comfort there, knowing like if this cop does something outlandish, they're not gonna get away with it. Whereas I don't have that feeling. I have it like, oh my god, there's nobody else right now. Anything could fucking happen.
You feel like the threat.
That's how I feel.
Because of like there's the whole like black.
I just
police
feel
violence.
like like if you go to court and be like, this guy did this, it's his story against mine.
Right.
And he can really muddy it up.
The cop?
However it ends up going down, he can really muddy it up because it's his word against mine. The only thing I got going for me, I got a clean record. I got this and that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But still, like when it's just him and I at night pulled over, I'm like, I don't, that feeling I get in my gut, I don't think you're getting it. And that's what I'm saying. That exists. But at the same time, white guys have to tiptoe around everything, and that's why, and I find that funny. But I'm saying, so even though on a surface level, society goes, you're white and you're evil and you're privileged,
there's still some certain realities.
all of those racist systemic issues are still very much in place. That George Floyd thing didn't change anything.
See, that's what I'm curious about, because I've been looking a lot about like racial dynamics in like in America and Canada and different things like that. But again, it scares me to talk about because it's already rooted in this.
Talk about it, man.
But I'm just saying it's rooted in this like identity politics. Like just because there's like, so what you're saying is like because you're black, you kind of like take on a lot of what you've heard. Does that make sense? Is that's what I'm kind of interested in? Is like, where is this almost collective unconscious where it's, because I could take it on, because it's. Because again, we're talking about like race and stuff like that. But my ultimate point is that to cure a lot of that, or to get through all of that.
Did you ever grow up next to a cop? Or
I grew up, my neighbor was a cop.
Your neighbor was a cop.
Yeah, she was.
I've never lived in a place where anybody in my neighborhood was a police officer, because we were subsidized housing. The cops were always there in a enforcement capacity.
Right. Yeah.
So I grew up around police being like enforcing. So I grew up around police almost like a jailer and prisoner type dynamic.
Right.
Whereas you saw cops out of uniform mowing the lawn. Hey, Mark.
Well,
then putting on the uniform and going. So you see, there's a humanizing thing to it because the middle cops are usually in the middle class, right?
Right.
But when you come from lower than middle class, your only exposure to the police outside of school when they come and go, don't do drugs, is like in your neighborhoods exercising power.
Right. Yeah, I grew up next to a homicide detective. She like lived alone. She
Was she hot?
No, she was like an old woman. She was a lesbian. She had this dog Champion that really hated us.
Champion?
Yeah, the dog's name was Champion.
It's a lot of syllables.
It was a very aggressive dog. But I guess ultimately what I'm trying to get at is there seems to be, okay, so that's bad. Like, of course, like stereotyping, racism, all that kind of judgmental stuff is a bad thing and, and clearly a wrong
I'm talking about
thing.
past that.
But past that, the other thing I'm trying to talk about is the way past that, honestly, is to almost achieve some kind of idea that there is a transcendent humanism. So there is something that we can all have access to that transcends it, as opposed to giving into these identities that you kind of placed onto yourself. Now, that's very difficult. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100% makes sense.
So
it's just like that. There's no money in that.
Well, there's no money in that.
Because
exactly.
But it doesn't help you when the new hot group of people are being disenfranchised or whatever.
Sure,
and it's time that they be put up. Oh, we'll stand behind them. We'll make money. Because look, that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that RuPaul's Drag Race.
Right.
Like that's
true.
a huge show, right?
Yeah.
And who came and like, I don't know anything about it, but I'm sure like that wasn't getting funded 15 years ago.
But that's very polarizing too, because I know a lot of people who are offended by drag, just generally speaking. Like they don't like the stereotypes of women that are presented by men.
But the point is that show probably would have just been too much of an outlier for our social sensibilities 20 years ago.
Right.
So it wouldn't have made money. It would have been just a dud.
Yeah, right.
But now it's enough that it can make money.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And once they get like they're in the zeitgeist of everything we know enough, that is not enough for us. Now we need the fucking like amputated, non-binary, and skydiving. You know what I mean? Like it'll be like some really niche thing, and that'll be the thing that's like really pisses people off.
Right.
And that'll be the new thing that all these people get behind.
So where is this lost compassion? Because it seems to be more rooted in like resentment. It's like there's a resentment for power. It's not so much a respect for understanding or competence. It's like I resent the fact that these blank people have been in power for so long. And I want that power. It's not what are the true ideas that exist that we can all kind of use. It's where do I have the power? Because like you're saying before, it's like there's all this kind of ethnic and gender diversity strictly for money. Like the goal is not because it's good. The goal is because it makes money, which to me is wrong, frankly. Because the idea of individualism and, you know, the ability that everybody you meet is so different regardless of whether they're a man or a woman, they come from such a specific background. And you have to treat people as individuals. I'm not sure unless you're like passing, but if you're talking to somebody,
it's hard because
I'm not going to treat you like you're just a black guy.
But
I don't even know what that means, really.
Because when you put me in your show, people see a black guy or an Asian woman. That's what it is. So even you may get to know me.
True, but that's wrong. And I think it's so tempting to get into that, to go, yeah, you're right. It's like, but you have to resist that. And you have to resist that temptation all the time. Like those horrible tendencies to box people in and judge people. I mean, that's a part of existence. Because
we're tribal.
We're exactly.
By nature, we are tribal.
But to say that, like, I mean, we were tribal for sure, but now I think we're more like
we still are. Keep in mind that
we are tribal.
We've had societies now for,
but you don't want to regress to that. You don't want to go
2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years, right?
It's true, and tribes,
and possibly upwards of 10,000.
We've
been doing agriculture,
big time.
But we've only been doing agriculture, which has facilitated a huge population of people being able to not make food. Right. And just create other services and be of value to society as a whole. So it makes a cluster of people living together, thus towns and cities. But for like 100,000 plus years before that,
right,
we were hunter-gatherers.
And
hunter-gatherers in tribes of 150 or less.
Right. And
you know what I mean?
And I think it's pretty...
So that is still in our DNA. All this city stuff is very recent if you look at the DNA of what we are.
Oh, yeah. That's blowing it up, and I like that.
You like that,
I like to blow it up like that.
That's what's up.
Yeah, there's something about that, and I think you have to, and I guess it depends on what your definition of progress is. Because you're right, there's agriculture, which helped that, but I also think religion played a big part of that. Where religion kind of came in and said that, like...
Oh, religion, yeah.
We all think this way. This is a moral code. And then in where like a religion settled, there was relative peace.
Oh, absolutely.
But then on the borders of where religions were, there was tons of fighting.
Exactly,
because it's an expansion of tribalism. I mean, I'm no.
If you're
PhD
Christian and I'm Christian on the other side of the world,
right,
and I come to wherever you are, we could do business because we're both Christian.
Totally.
We might not even speak the same language.
Big time.
But morally, we're on the same playing field. That's what religion did. It was almost like a leveling thing.
And we seem to be in like a post-religious world right now, which I think is what a lot of this compassion and guilt and shame, because
we're getting further and further away from just being an animal, and it's like the uncharted territories of like we are animals,
right?
But our minds have essentially evolved to the level where we have this consciousness in us and me and all that, and that is that in tandem with like how much society's progressing, how big it's getting, and how online and like virtual it's becoming, is all leading us to a direction that is just uncharted. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's, but history does repeat itself, and I think it might be going like more animalistic, where you are starting to judge people on very simple terms. It's not getting more complex; it's getting simpler. It's like, oh, this is this type of person, which I think is kind of a bit of a intellectual regression, because for a long time it was like, you know, the individual, like I think it's a enlightenment idea where it's like, you know, the sovereign individual. There's something about individualism that's sovereign. And then you get psychology out of that, and you get like philosophy, and universities kind of promoted that pretty good. But for a long time, you're right, it was just tribes fighting, and tribes will fight. There's nothing else. Tribes fight. I think that's like a pretty solid fact.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a
the
fact
way
or
we
not.
do it is right.
Exactly. And
or you're creating problems for us, or if we have.
And the way to disperse of that is to treat everybody as an individual. I mean, it's kind of like if you do good for yourself.
That's easier said than done, though, because
oh my God,
companies, like let's move away from TV and film,
okay,
and go more towards normal corporate.
Okay, and they are very similar.
There are tax kickbacks. There are actual companies will save money having diversity, having a diverse.
Well, exactly.
Workforce. You know what I mean? Having this of this, and it won't necessarily be like get 10% off here this for an Asian and 15. They don't break it down like that.
Yeah, right.
But people that are, you know, whenever you apply for a job and they go, check one of these boxes of what you are. You know?
Oh, certainly.
Native American, white,
but that's
black,
only the last decade
Hispanic.
or so? That's only the last decade.
Bro, I filled one of those boxes out in America one time for a thing, and I swear to God. There was only 2 boxes, Hispanic or non-Hispanic.
Hispanic or non-Hispanic?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Which state?
This is California or Michigan.
Okay.
But imagine Hispanic or non-Hispanic. So it was probably California.
It was probably California. I was going to say, yeah.
That's it. That's all they wanted to know.
If you're Hispanic or
what?
not.
That's it?
Yeah. That's interesting.
That's the most fucked up thing I've ever heard. Hispanic or not.
That certainly has something to do with the immigration thing.
Yeah.
The Mexican-American relationship.
Are you possibly illegal or definitely not?
Yeah, exactly right.
What?
And so many people are like, not.
But yeah, they can't look at people as the individual. Because let's say individual A, let's say you and me are equally suited for the job. In fact, you're 5% better.
Sure.
Suited for the role.
Okay.
But there's an actual economic saving by going with me.
Yeah, of course.
So then it's difficult in that sense to look at the individual. They gotta, it's all about the bottom line at the end of the day with business, right?
Well, yeah,
so they gotta identify you as part of the group that makes that tax break.
Well, that's how much this kind of ideology is leaked into the culture. But it started somewhere. It started with something where it because I remember being a kid and there was a big promotion of like color blindness, which is almost offensive now, where it's like, you know, it's this idea where, you know, it's not colorblindness as to say like warm-hearted, not literally colorblind, but that there's like the kindness to your intention, where it's like you're promoting this idea where it's like regardless of their color, there are things that humans have in common, and you can list fear, love, hate, jealousy, pain, all these things that all humans feel. And they only exist in the consciousness of humanity, and we all share them and trade them.
And dolphins, of course.
And that
shout out to the dolphins watching.
Shout out to the dolphins out there, and all mammals, really.
Very
all of
smart.
our boys. Yeah, you're born out of a womb, you're with us here. None of those egg creatures. That's what I say.
Fuck you.
Enough with the egg
Mammal
creatures.
life, bitch.
You know what I'm talking about? I want to suck on some
you
nipples.
egg fags.
Exactly.
Yo, we mammals, bitch. We get birthed direct.
Exactly. Yeah, baby. I want to suck on some tits for milk. You feel me? Yeah, exactly. None of that egg stuff.
But yeah, now it's like the total opposite of color blindness.
Well,
now it's like respect and identify and
well, to me, which is interesting to me because I think society's already gotten through that. Like I think if you look at the beginnings of British common law, actually, I think the history of British common law was such that we went through this idea where it's like, okay, we're going to define you to your group mentality. Where some guy goes, okay, I'm a black guy. He goes, okay, well, I'm a gay black guy. Okay, well, I'm a trans gay black guy. Well, I'm a single parent trans gay black guy. Well, I'm a single parent trans amputee. And then you realize very quickly, but imagine, you mean you're a complete individual?
Yeah.
You mean you're actually this complete individual?
Exactly.
But for some reason, that scale seems to be sliding and unclear anymore. Which I can't really figure out what's going on because when I was in school, I was in Dartmouth and it was a predominantly black school where I grew up.
Dartmouth is predominantly black school?
Dartmouth, here's a little interesting. This is something I know about Dartmouth, that it was the only place in Canada where they had American slaves. So Harriet Tubman, the Underground Railroad, landed in Dartmouth. This place called Africville in Halifax.
Africville?
Africville.
Oh, okay. No, that definitely has nothing to do with Africa.
No, it's nothing to do with Africa. But
there's no A at the end. It's totally unrelated.
I forget. I don't know the exact dates, but it's the only place in Canada where they had like legit. Like I went to school with kids whose last name.
Yeah, they would seek refuge there, slaves, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So like a lot of kids I went to were legitimately descendants of slaves, like American slaves.
Okay.
Yeah, Downies and Beals. It's huge families out there. There's a place called Jellybean Square. Oh, is that me?
Nice. I'm so happy that didn't stop the
recording.
Oh, thank God.
Was it just a phone call?
Yeah, it was on drive.
Okay, word.
Yeah, FaceTime me.
It was the only place where they in Canada where there's the descendants of slaves. So growing up with like majority black kids in Dartmouth, I think it was like a 40-60, and I went to Dartmouth High, which is right downtown near this place called Jellybean Square, which was painted.
Sounds racist as fuck,
dude. I mean, well, Dartmouth was.
Get out of here, you nigger! This is Jellybean Square. We don't need your niggers out here.
What happened is
we're eating jelly beans out here.
Oh, I've heard that before. Yeah. Certainly. But
why can't they have jelly beans? That one, like.
But it's kind of sick because they named Jellybean Square because Africville got dispersed because the land became valuable, so they put them in this place called Preston, which is like a 45-minute drive out of town. Yeah. This is some old school racist shit. Yeah. And then there's this place called Jellybean Square, which is right downtown, which is like government housing, which is right next to where my high school was. And they call it Jellybean Square because back in the day, it was like a ghetto. Basically, it was like the bare minimum, and they just painted them like bright red and bright blue
the Rio
and all
de
this
Janeiro
stuff. Exactly. Yeah. And they're like, but it still looks like
they're
fun.
Like, look, it's red. And
some guy like
7 people died last night. Yeah, but look, the walls are blue.
That was fascinating growing up because in Dartmouth there would always be like 2 or 3 murders a year, gun murders in Dartmouth, because Dartmouth, it's a big port as well, and a lot of the gun trade is actually brought in Halifax and stuff.
Oh shit!
Because the big military base and shit. But growing up, to get back to my point, I remember they always preached Martin Luther King, and it was all about that color blindness. It was all about the content of character and not the color of skin, which is weird now because that almost has that's almost like a right-wing talking point now in a strange way. Like that it's not the Malcom X, Marcus Garvey
because that
return to Africa, Black Power. It's Martin Luther King was like, race doesn't matter. You can't be tempted by that idea. And it seemed to shift and become like the Black Panthers and the Black Power movement was so hyper focused on race. It was a different idea. Yeah, and
the idea is
that seems to have grown less than say the Martin Luther King color blindness notion, which is like, don't get tempted by that. Individually, you cannot be tempted to be like, this person is this based on the way they look. This woman is like this because she's a woman. It's like, or this black person's like this because he's black. That is like, you think about it for 5 seconds. You're like, oh yeah, right. It's, of course.
Yeah.
Someone's melanin count in their skin is irrelevant to their brain. Completely. You could approach it sociologically, psychologically, biologically, any direction you want to take that conversation in. It seems to...
I think the reason you had so many... Martin Luther King was that. Martin Luther King was awesome, obviously.
Oh, yeah. One of my heroes, man. Big time.
That's such a white guy thing to say.
Dude, I mean, I know it is, but... Well, that's what I'm saying.
But you're an ally, bro.
But that's interesting, though, right? But that is now like more of a white guy thing to say, which is interesting to me because growing up, it certainly was not. It was definitely not. Like in the 90s and stuff, it was definitely more of a black, like old black woman thing to be like, Martin Luther King. And I've been to some protests where people yell out like, fuck Martin Luther King. And I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Actually, people say that. Fuck Martin Luther King, man.
I've heard that.
Fuck him and his slow pace talk.
It's like...
I've climbed the mountain and I have seen... the other side, or whatever it is.
I know, it's not as cool. It's not as cool as Malcolm X with like his gun, and like a window, being like, "These fucking white bastards."
Whoa, no. Martin Luther King preached nonviolence.
Yeah,
and Malcolm X essentially preached equality by any means necessary.
Right. He was.
Don't go attacking people, but if they attack you, you kill them where they stand, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Martin Luther King was, even if they hit you, you do not swing back. You know what I mean?
I know.
And Malcolm X was like, yo, fuck that shit. We're men too. So,
right.
And they both got killed. Look, they both got killed at the end of the day.
Yeah, it didn't work out for either of them, unfortunately.
But the point is, his was more like, Martin Luther King was more like on the idealistic side of things.
He was a Christian too. He was a
pastor. We can't look at the skin color, but racism was so predominant that you need militantly aggressive groups to push aggressively forward for the disenfranchised groups. And they all ended up just like completely liquidating and like being nothing at this point, just like lore from the past. But still, they help pull things forward. You know what I mean? Like, you can just idle by and wait for each individual to slowly realize, hey, you know what? This black guy is actually all right. Or you can have, like, militantly inspired black people putting other black people together, being like, yo, fuck this shit. Fuck this shit. Fuck this nonviolence. I'm getting attacked. Fuck nonviolence.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and that is ultimately.
I'm already living like half a slave. What? Like, I'm not afraid of death at this point.
Well, that's very American. It's a very American kind of race politics kind of thing. But there was something else going on there in like the 1960s as well. There's this thing called the Moynihan Report.
What's that?
Did you ever hear Bill Moynihan?
No.
Anyways, he's this guy who wrote this paper in the 1960s called The Black Family, A Case for National Action. And what he found was that in 1960 or 59, he wrote this paper and it said that so the black family is in serious trouble. There is 25% of all black children are born into wedlock. And he was like, this is horrible. We can't have that going on right now. Because society, Western society in particular, and most of society
built off of the marriage system.
It's built off of families.
Yes.
It's built off of families.
The institution of marriage.
Absolutely. The institution of marriage, right?
Tax breaks. Wherever there's a tax break,
you get some money for having kids.
Yeah, exactly. That just goes to show where people getting pulled. Tax breaks are the way to pull the masses towards one direction.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Corporations hire
he
immigrants. Tax break. Get married. Tax break.
You know have a kid. Tax break.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Fund pensions that might get fucked up later on. Tax break.
Hide your money in non-charitable foundations. Tax break.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give all my money to a church and then get it back. No, there was something there, and what was it? Lyndon B. Johnson took that and then did the war on poverty right out of that too. Remember that? Which basically gave birth to the welfare state.
Oh, yeah, it was like the food stamps, everything.
Everything came out of that because he was like, look, black families are in trouble. Which is interesting. What's fascinating now is that the out of wedlock birth rate for black people is like 70%.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
it's
like way high. Yeah.
Exactly. And now,
wait. How are you just so up on this statistic? By the way, I just check it every morning. You don't?
I do. Well, I mean, it's
what about white people out of wedlock?
Well, quietly in my own private life, race politics are quite close to my heart. In all honesty, it's just something that's been in my face my whole life, and studying it and being around people of different colors.
Are there a lot of black kids in art school with you? And
no, that was what was interesting. There wasn't really. I remember going up in Dartmouth and then going to Halifax. It was completely whitewashed, which is
like over the bridge,
literally over the bridge. Oh yeah, but growing up,
it's straight up Oakland, San Francisco. If you've ever been,
big time, man. It was so weird. But I put on like hip hop all the time, or and people be like, "Oh, this music's too scary." Like I put on like Tyler the Creator when it was coming out.
That's hilarious.
And I was like
Goblin.
21, and I'd be like putting on Goblin and shit like that.
Yeah,
They'd be
Yonkers.
like, "What is this?"
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, "Where's the Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros?" And I'm like, "That shit's dope too." But this shit right here, this shit is dope as shit. And that's right when Odd Future and all that really exaggerated. This is scary.
And then they put on Eminem.
I know exactly.
Sit
right.
back in this pack, and this Eminem is the next shit.
I know. Yeah.
Sometimes I just put on Eminem, and I'm like, I like the idea of the song. I'm a huge fan of Eminem, but I'll
Right.
put on The Way I Am every now and then.
Oh, yeah,
And like
classic.
sometimes I just right when I press play, it's just like a wave of aggression coming at you, more than like 90% of black rappers too. It's like his, in the Marshall Mathers LP, his
he's
level of
pissed.
anger
was
like it was boiling level.
Well, even
bro.
you saw him
I would
back
just change
then.
it. I would just be like, I love this song, and I almost feel bad changing it, but like I just can't do this aggressive thing right now.
I know, it's
all
true.
I'm feeling is I'm not even hearing the words. All I'm hearing is, you know what I mean?
It's either that or like extremely sarcastic. He was like such a bipolar rapper. He'd be like this, like blue and yellow, purple. He was,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Superman,
Or he'd be like,
that
I fucking
song.
hate my son. You're just like, okay.
She's like,
all right.
rotten. Oh, what's that tattoo say? Rotten pieces. Oh, that's great.
Lovely, wonderful. But Eminem's got that 1,000-yard stare too, though. When he's on interviews, it's like, I'm gonna fucking no. He's just like 2-word answers. Must be a tough interview, I would imagine.
Because
Gotta have that manliness, you know what I'm saying? Gotta have that fucking braggadocious kind of shit.
That's
That's
being
the hip hop way.
being a poor white person amongst poor black people is like almost like it's got its roughness. As Chappelle puts it, he grew up poor around white people, and he's been around white people. It's like the only difference is white people feel like this isn't supposed to be happening to me.
Right. Okay.
Whereas all the poor black people around you will be like, man, you got this privilege. They're all poor together.
Right.
But they like you probably got a chip. They think you have a chip on your shoulders because you were white.
Yeah.
So you actually almost getting it a little worse. So Eminem almost had it like the worst case scenario.
He was like self-loathing and poor.
Yeah, the blacks
like,
hated on
I
him. He
hate
was
myself.
poor.
Yeah.
Mom was fucking everybody, from what I understand.
Oh, gee. Yeah, he grew up in a pretty rough
What, you
situation.
slip, trip, landed
But-
on his dick?
His music wouldn't be as good.
Damn,
Music
damn
would not
right.
be as good.
Damn
You know what
right.
I mean? You need
no
that
junk,
suffering.
no soul, baby.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Ooh.
No, but
Bill, back on this topic of
Yo.
ethnic budget.
okay.
Where do you see this going? Do you actually see?
shit.
Can you see a flip where it's like, let's remember that this is Canada,
We're in Canada.
a country that is, what would you say, 80% white? I'm not talking about Toronto.
No, I don't know. It's funny. Canada does not do race-based statistics at all.
What do you mean? That's what the fuck a census is for.
Yeah, but they don't break it down by race. They break it down by age. They break it down by gender. They break it down by class.
They ask you. They're like, instead of being like, what group do you identify with? Now they ask, what do you like? Rock, pop, hip hop,
Yeah, exactly.
and they just extrapolate from. Well, we have music genre data that we could extrapolate
Classical,
from.
over 85.
Yeah, exactly.
White over 85.
But I'm gonna go on out on a limb here and say 80%.
Sure, yeah,
The
mostly,
whole
for sure.
prairies, the west.
Yeah,
The
oh, yeah.
East is big time white. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
Dartmouth's sure not, but
Sure.
fucking Brunswick, Newfoundland, PEI.
Big time.
Right?
I would say, oh, yeah.
Quebec. Right?
Certainly the majority
So
of
let's
people
say
are white.
80%.
Yeah.
It's hilarious to me that every show that is put forward is like, they're not representative of the country. You know what I mean? They're representative of the most like diverse Toronto neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it's almost like CBC, which is the Canada Broadcasting Company, right?
Canadian Broadcasting Company.
They're
My boy.
shoving down the throat of the country of like diversity, even though it is not representative of the people in general, right? But
Right.
that's because they have to. They can't just keep putting white people up because that's what's been happening. And now the whole society and industry is being like, yo, if you keep doing that, you're oh wow, Canada's still doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It looks gauche or it looks like like that's
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not sincere.
it's not tastefully casted.
No, it's not compassionate, but which I think is just like kind of a weird blanket term for resentment.
But exactly.
You know
So
what I mean?
I'm like,
it has a resentment tinge to it for some weird reason. I'm not sure. Yeah.
like I'm waiting for the Saskatchewan farm show that's cast like.
Didn't they have Little Mosque on the Prairie? Remember
Yeah, that
show?
was way back in the day. That was
that
just
was-
like a post 9/11
But that was
relief
still- but
effort.
that's-
That was like a PR by
it
all
all is.
Muslims
It all
after
is.
9/11.
Well, that's the
we need a mosque on a prairie. We need some good, honest, just run-of-the-mill Muslims just living honest lives and not bombing. And
well, there you go.
No planes in the show at all.
Exactly, right. They wear suits.
Exactly.
Yeah, they wear sweaters.
They pray on Fridays, but they're good people.
Exactly.
They're watching the game. They're not drinking alcoholic beer, but you know what? They're good people. They'll have nachos. They'll have,
of course. They'll go to a bar and they'll watch hockey. Exactly. People. They'll play hockey and they'll struggle a little bit, but then they'll get it.
But I'm waiting for the Saskatchewan prairie show with 9 black guys. To be like,
we're just like, what the fuck?
We're just a regular black, and then no one, and who is watching? Bro, that's what I wish I could. Wish I could see the numbers of, especially not so much on CBC, because I don't even have. I don't even have access to any of these Canadian shows unless they make it onto Netflix or YouTube. I don't have Crave. I don't have any of them.
Right.
So I don't even know how people watch this shit, right?
Some of them watch it still on TV, mostly older people.
Yeah, I don't get the feed, but...
No, I mean,
what I want to know, especially on Netflix, I would love to see... There's so many shows, so many Netflix originals that come out that address every niche. I would love to see what their viewership numbers are. Because sometimes I watch them. Who the fuck is watching this?
I bet they're pretty high.
Who is watching this? I mean,
Netflix
sure,
shows?
I bet you all of their juggernauts are high.
Oh, sure.
But I'm talking about across the board. New releases, I'll see 5 of them that I haven't even seen before, and they're all Netflix originals.
A show, I think, to get a second season needs at least somewhere in the ballpark of between 300 and 500,000 viewers a week to get, I think, on CBC to get a new season. Really big shows will get upwards of 1 million, maybe 1.5 million
a week
viewership. And I think, and I don't know if that's global or not. That might be just Canadian.
What?
For CBC?
How could it be Canadian only? It can't only be. Well, 1.5 million a week? Our population is 38 million.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot more people not in cities probably, or older people
or watching everything
who are just watching
on TV.
Yeah, just watching CBC, or just stuck in those old ways.
Yeah,
or just aren't advanced to the new ways, I guess. Aren't streaming and are kind of confused by apps and smartphones. So they're just with their little remote. And if you're over 60, which is a lot, I mean, I think the median age of...
Are you watching Kim's Convenience if you're over 60?
I assume so.
One could imagine.
I assume so, but Kim's Convenience is I think a lot more popular than it is watched. It's like a big show that CBC promotes a lot.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you know the numbers? Does anybody know these numbers?
I don't know the numbers offhand, but yeah, that's a big show, and I'm sure they get 2 million probably an episode. I would imagine something like that. Maybe more, because again, I don't think that's counting the streams. I don't think that's counting because it's on Netflix.
You would have to count the streams though.
No, I think that's just broadcast.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I mean, I don't know how it works, really. I mean, I'm just a cameraman. What the hell do I know?
I love what... so you're telling me about being on set, and it's
yeah,
it's all these
there's
plastic up old white women who've been in the industry for decades, and now it's in front of the camera is whoever is waving the flag. You know what I mean? Right. In society right now, we have problems. Whoever that is who they put in front of the camera. Who's behind the camera? It never changes. Okay, is the vibe I get. But you got introduced.
That seems true to me.
That's what's fun. It's almost imagine a puppeteer. Remember the Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Yes.
How one guy would be playing there'd be a courtyard and kids watching a puppet show.
Mm-hmm.
It's the puppeteer stays old white. And he changes the puppets to reflect who's in the audience and who is of an earning potential to support and watch the thing they're creating. They're oh, there's Asians here now. Let me put on an Asian puppet. You know what I mean? It's just
yeah,
it's just a play for economic purposes.
Well,
yeah? None of it. It's you're saying there's zero compassion.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what really troubles me about the whole thing is that it is this kind of forced compassion rooted in resentment. It's sad to me in a way when I really think about it as hard as I can about how you should just be out there trying to talk about it really breaks down to do you believe that there's certain things that humans share? Are there transcendent things? Does everybody feel fear? Can we just talk about fear and how hard that is to deal with? Or can we talk about love and how difficult that is to deal with? Regardless of what the details are. Sure, we'll put them in the ghetto in New York and they'll wear this cultural clothing and they'll talk this cultural lingo. Whatever. The human element is still there. You can still reach into those big wells, but that seems to be caring less and less. And it's just, let's do the picture cookie cutter stories. Who cares about the script and the ideas as long as the face is what we want it to be, which is such a capitalist move. Like, it's not in my opinion, like a liberal, emotion art move. It's very political. But that's Canada. Canada's funding is all political. Like, it's CBC. It's government people going, I'm going to choose what artists to choose.
And America,
people.
It's Hollywood capitalist driven.
Well, it's free market. Totally.
It's free market.
It's just what other people want, and let's go that direction.
So what's the last classic Canada has produced?
The last, like, classic
movie.
Classic movie. I mean, Canada's not great at films.
Canada's not really great at
it does
critically
more, it does more TV.
Content.
It does great comedy television. Like, I always had this theory that Canada was fantastic. I'll name you a bunch of, but it's great. It's great at low budget, high personality. So if you look at something like Tom Green, no money, but his personality skyrockets. Kenny versus Spenny, no money, personality skyrockets.
They all went to the States.
Nathan Fielder, exactly right, because Canada's freaked out by them because it doesn't fit this government orientation.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it just might be that there is way more food for them in the States. And once they got their concept validated via the vehicle of Canadian television,
sure,
and were able to get the ears of decision makers in the States, they went at the first jump.
Well, I think
rather than Canada being like, we can't handle this shit anymore, we can't pick you up, Tom Green, for another season.
Well, I mean, but the same thing. I think that's what happened with Tom Green. Is they're like, this is too weird, we don't want it, and then like MTV was like, we'll take that. Same with Kenny versus Spenny. They got dropped by CBC, and then Showcase picked them up. Same thing happened with Trailer Park Boys. Trailer Park Boys, another one. No money, the personality shone. So it's this really low budget handheld video crap, but the reality, like these personalities are so big and strong, and I think that's what Canada's really good at, and it reflects the culture. Like, Canada's very silly, but they do nothing. Like, we don't have like a lot of technology.
You would think we came from Seinfeld would have started here, huh?
Yeah, or we still have that old like wintry roots where it's just like, when it's cold and stuff, you got to make each other laugh and you got to be silly. Canadians are very silly people. We're not serious people per se. In our own way. Time,
yeah. But that politicalness that CBC has, that they distill into all of the paid programming that they have, that is kind of distilled into the Canadian people a little bit. I can tell you that as a comedian.
Well, it's because it's all...
The laugh is more, if I do race-based stuff about a race that I am not, because it's like, if you make fun of your own race, that's fine.
Sure.
If you go up there as a white comic talking about white guys right now, that's fine, As a black guy talking, it's when the white guy talks about black guys. It's when the black guy talks about Asians. Actually, black guys, we're so disenfranchised. We have the card to talk about anything.
But look at like Russell Peters. Russell Peters goes out there and people
he's a brown guy, like in the 9/11 era. You know what I mean? He can talk about whatever.
You can talk about anything he wants.
But the point is, I hear more of a guttural, unfiltered laugh in the United States than I do in Canada. Canada almost there is like, ooh, I don't want to that. Kind of like hesitation, reluctance to fully express is always kind of present, especially obviously in the big cities.
Oh,
you go out in the small cities, it feels just like anywhere. But I mean, I performed in San Francisco. Toronto's similar vibe. San Francisco is obviously a higher degree of like, you know what I mean? Like,
I bet it's.
I'll make black jokes and they won't laugh at them, and like it's like a group of white people. It's like I am black. It's like what the fuck is happening?
I feel like that might be even more of a class thing. It might be more of a class thing than a race thing, because I find like poorer people you can be way more offensive around. If you're like low class, it's like I really think like it's like the race discussion is almost like a weird simplified guise to ignore because that's driven by capitalism and politics. It's actually class that you're talking about. It's the fact that like poor people, I think, are funnier and are more innovative than rich elites. Because rich elites look at each other and they go, are you obeying the rules? Are you obeying the rules? And they have that kind of tension, which in my experience
like anybody
exists.
could rat anybody out at any second.
Shooting on a big set, it's like there's such this weird militaristic tension out there where it's like, don't fuck up, pass the blame, blah, 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 blah. But when I'm making films with you, or I'm making films with my friends, or I'm making films with Conrad, it's like we're all just like, I don't know, what do we do? It's like has this loose kind of funness to it, which I think...
You lose that once there's money on the line.
But you don't have to. You don't have to. You can always go, well, no, my art is more valuable than my money. My feelings, my personality. That's what sucks is that there's this kind of people are giving
You're talking like such a real director right now. I love it.
Well, I'll just say
but
that.
Continue. I just want to say that. I want to interrupt and say that.
They're giving up their personal interests and their personal values for money and career, which is so like... to me just feels kind of gross and mucky and kind of like it just doesn't feel great. Like we were talking about before the podcast, your parents like, we can go make money. Why aren't you making money? It's like, because that's not my thing.
Yeah.
I
don't even have, that's the funniest part about it is imagine not even having like the things I want to say in Arabic, I can't even say. I can have like very rudimentary, like basic conversation. Where's that? This is great. Oh, can you make this? Let's go watch that movie. I just bought this.
Right.
But when my family, like I was just telling them, like I was home this weekend. It's like my brother-in-law, every opportunity he gets, he's like, man, if I had your degree, man, I would be in Qatar, like in Qatar. Like, I'd be in Qatar, man. Like, I have friends there in Qatar, man. They don't even have your degree, and they're making $14,000 a month, no tax. They're paying for their living. It's like
pressure.
Yeah, it's still such a survive mentality. Because I get it. We're all born in Sudan. We're all born in Africa, and we're here now, so we're still surviving. But it's like, yo, I want to thrive, and they don't. I can't, I don't have the words to be like, yo, I don't want to at all do that. I have nothing in me that wants to do that. So even if I did make that money, that does nothing for me. Like, am I going to go in the middle of nowhere? How about all my friends who went to Fort McMurray to work the oil fields when back in the day when every other conversation was, bro, you go to Fort Mac, you live there 2 years, you pocket like crazy, and you come back in this. I know a million guys who did that shit, man. 2-3 weeks on, 1-2 weeks off. Bro, that's the worst schedule. People lose their mind. There's meth and drugs are crazy out there. But you're making money.
But I mean, money is such a dead end pursuit because you never have enough.
Exactly.
You cannot have enough.
It's like, okay, I have 14. Okay, well, how do I get this to 16?
Which is kind of like it kind of marries nicely with the religious analogy with like money. It's like, well, one day I'll have enough. One day there'll be redemption. One day Jesus will come back and save me.
Yeah, it's
like a weird. True. But all religions have like redemption day.
Have faith, kind of thing.
Yeah, and have faith in it, and
but they're thinking
idea
more
of safety.
of like,
but it's like, you're not safe. You're a human. What are you talking about? You get cancer and die. That's straight up.
I don't even know the word for fulfillment in Arabic. Yeah. I don't know to tell them like, yo, I'm going in the, I'm already fulfilled in the thing I'm pursuing, and I'm broke. And like the only reason I want to make money is to help out around here. I'll make a little extra money just to throw you guys, help on my mom, right?
Sure.
That's the only, I want to do that. That's why I'm like actually applying to part-time jobs and shit.
Yeah, word.
Not to mention the credit card debt I have, but you know what I mean?
We're all there, bro.
But the point, I don't even know how to tell them, yo, that's not fulfilling for me. Like, that's a laughable, even if I did, it's a laugh. They're going to look at me like, man, this guy lost his brain to Canada, man. He lost his mind to the first world. And it really is. They're not wrong. It really is the privilege of the first world to be like, fuck the focus on surviving, because everywhere else in the world everyone's focusing on surviving,
right?
But here in the first world it's like, yo, surviving is almost the default, right?
Well,
it's like
totally,
and the majority of people stay surviving and try to do well, but I want to thrive. I don't want to survive. I want to thrive, make your passion your work, and thrive in that route. And all I can tell them is just give me time. This will all make sense. I didn't even know how to say it in English. I was holding my niece, like his daughter.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you doing? Like, you're so like, like think. And I just told him, yeah, I felt weird saying it, but I was like, yo, don't worry. I'm pretty fucking talented. Okay? Like, give me some time. I'm going to figure this shit out. Okay?
You need that confidence, bro.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, and they're like, well, at least you have your degree to fall back on. And I'm like, that is mentality. Took that mentality out of my mind years ago. There's no fall back.
Well, that's interesting, because I think that we talked about this when you were at my place last, where it's like you have that meaning. It's like, well, my life has purpose. Beyond, you can't really buy meaning. You can't, like, people try to buy meaning all the time. Well, if I'm a millionaire and I have this nice shit, then my life will be meaning. Meaning, that means to me that it's like when other people look at you, they'll think something that you want them to think. You yourself aren't actually going to think that, because that is only found within, right? Like, you need to find out what you want for yourself.
But my family's very religious, so the idea they've already subscribed to a concept of meaning, and they've already subscribed to a concept of what is all this.
Yeah.
So they are just like, this is all a test. Let's live decently. Let's eat. and
man.
and then this life will end and we'll go to heaven or whatever, right?
Sure.
And I subscribe to the idea as, yo, this is the only life you're guaranteed. How am I gonna live this life as a test when I don't know what the fuck is going? I know one thing for sure. I don't know what happened before I existed, and I can only imagine my death will be the exact same state.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that means that this period right here is the only guaranteed thing, and might as well live that
it's true.
by your own means and live that pursuing what you think you want, rather than being like, well, this is the book. I subscribe to this book. So in the meantime, let me do some engineering. You know what I mean?
That and yeah, to be uninspired, because I think it's great if you're an inspired engineer, but to do something
exactly.
uninspired.
Oh, I'm not dogging engineering at all, because I know some people that were like, I know some engineers. I was like, makes me just go, wow, man, they need more of this in the school. Like
100%.
this is the type of person that'll change the world.
Yeah.
I just wasn't in the right thing, and I think I have that power, just in my own lane.
Well, and I think that also reflects other people. Like when you die, it's like your memory and the effects you have on other people is pretty, like it repeats pretty good. Like if you see a place where there's a bunch of like hatred or arrogance or whatever it is, and if you add more to that, if you're like, oh, these people are hateful or this situation is hateful or not very good, it's like it's your job to add the good and to take out the hate. If you add more hate, if you start hating the hate, it just becomes this hateful, horrible thing.
What's it called?
Because
I was thinking of a powder keg, but it snowballs essentially.
It snowballs, absolutely. And I think the same thing goes with goodness, but that's much harder for goodness because it's undefined and it's easier to throw goodness into like politics. It's hard to kind of be just good for yourself and go, oh, this person I disagree with and hate, I need to actually love them. That's my job right now. If they're spouting out some horrible shit that you disagree with, it's your job to listen to them.
Yeah.
And actually, change their idea by simply adding, like, I'm actually giving you time.
Yeah.
I'm not shutting anybody up.
I just remind myself right now that every successful immigrant comedian, I guarantee their parents are no longer talking shit about switch careers or be this or that.
Oh, hell no. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I've had
every single one of them, right?
I've had that experience myself where it's like, yeah. And that's society and that's other people. That's kind of like getting away from the internal ideas of like value and individualism. But like if you make films like I have and people are like, okay, yeah, filmmaker, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, look, I got a film in this festival. People are like, oh, okay. So they're kind of judging you off of the
your accolades,
social thing.
Judging you off of the thing they recognize and can say to their friends.
Exactly right. And it's like, fair enough, man. Like that's just how it goes. But I can't give into that. I can't give into that. And other people easily do give into that, where it's like, you go to like TIFF, for example, and it's like a celebrity petting zoo.
That's Toronto International Film Festival.
Yeah, TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival. It's one of the big ones. And it's like a celebrity petting zoo. That's basically what it is. People are just there to look at celebrities. They're like,
Eddie Murphy, this guy's pulling up.
And then you're like, well, what about the feelings that Eddie Murphy's expressing in that film? It's like, wow, that takes work to think about, so no, fuck that.
That actually reminds me in TIFF. I was just standing there and some guy pulls up in a fucking frenzy, in a panic. He pulls up in a black Suburban.
Yeah.
He's just like, do you guys know where 7th thing is? He says some street.
Yeah.
And we're like, no. He's like, I got to pick up Eddie Murphy in like 3 minutes. And he's like hyperventilating.
That's the pressure I'm talking about. Like Eddie Murphy's probably like cool. If he's like 2 minutes late, he's probably like, it's fine, dude. He's like, but you don't understand, my boss is going to fucking shoot me.
Drive when he was supposed to be in reverse. He was fucked up.
Well, that's the weird thing. And I'm sure you've experienced this with like working with big actors and stuff. It's like there's so much tension around them, and then you meet them and they're like, hey, what's up, man? You're like, oh, fuck. Like,
that's get the no thing right, actor ever worked with that.
And then all of a sudden you get to them and they're
that
like,
tension,
it's chill.
The only really big actor I work with, Giancarlo Esposito, like I said.
Right.
But his whole vibe was exactly the vibe he built. There was no like, hey, how are you? How long you been acting? There was none of that human element at all.
Really? Fair enough. Okay,
there was no opening for a conversation at all.
Okay,
never mind. And I'm not the type to, there's people that if there is an opening, they'll take it.
Yeah.
I'm the type who, if there's an opening, I probably won't take it unless you induce. If you say something first, I'll respond. I'm not going to cut you out. I'm not going to brush it off.
Right.
But I err on the side of, I don't want to bother this person, which is like a very immigrant thing. It's just like Sebastian. I always assume by default, my interaction or engagement with this person is going to bother them.
Yeah.
So I err on the side of not until
That's interesting.
Spoken to or interacted with, so to speak.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you, Are you more somebody who has like separate friend groups, or do you mash friends together?
I have big time separate friend groups.
You have big time separate friend groups?
Big
That's
time.
interesting.
But I have mashed them together though.
You do mash them together?
Yeah,
See, I'm
yeah.
a big friend masher.
Yeah.
I always throw people together and just see what happens.
I've seen it gone south a bunch of times.
Me too, but I mean,
yeah, me too, and I love watching it. Yeah.
Well, not that I love watching. It's just that like I can't control these people. It's not my choice to make these people get along.
But
I
see,
get along
like I
with
have
both of
friend
them.
groups like in Waterloo and in Toronto and in Mississauga
I guess
and in
you can't
London.
match that,
So
yeah,
there's
yeah.
a geographic separation.
But
as
like
well.
I think it comes from maybe the film set mentality where you're like, okay, all these people who will work with me, it's like mash all these people together that don't know each other, but they're your friends, and you're like, okay, we're gonna try and do this together. And then, but when you have a common goal, it's a lot easier than just like at a party or some shit.
a lot, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, exactly right. So that I think that's a hangover of that. Like a lot of my friendships come through creativity. Like I usually kind of like make stuff with people, then become their friend. It's kind of how I met you.
But you auditioned for New Black Friends though. Actually, I auditioned for it, right? You were looking for New Black Friends.
I
and
was
you
looking for
ran
New
like-
Black Friends. That's right. Yeah.
remember?
I was done with the Asians and the Indians.
Yeah,
I got
exactly.
it. Exactly. I got. Yeah. Now
Yeah.
I'm looking.
No
for,
callback. I just got the job. It was awesome.
Exactly. I was like, I need to look more woke. I started taking selfies with you.
Yeah,
when I
right.
first met you.
I'm gonna post this one next Thursday and this
Exactly.
one the following Wednesday.
Hashtag Black Lives Matter.
Yo, on that note, bro, we've been doing about an hour 10 or so. Let's land this
word.
thing. Tell the people where to find you.
Yo, where to find me? Just find me on the street, man. If I do come up to you and ask you for a portrait, please say yes.
He actually does that.
I do that a lot. I take a
Does
lot
a
of
lot
street
of
portraits.
photography. He actually
Yeah.
would go up to like
A lot of
a family with
strangers.
a daughter and be like, "Can I take a picture of your daughter?"
I 100% will. I do that. It's quite nice. A lot of people
But he's
are very
so white,
nice.
and with those glasses, he's very unassuming. So
Very
a lot of people
unassuming.
say yes.
And I think it's also because of my height, too. I think for some reason people trust taller people.
You're not that tall, bro.
Well, no, but it's...
How tall are you?
6'1".
He's pretty tall.
But I mean, that like I remember hearing that from a photographer, and I was like, that kind of makes sense.
That's funny.
I don't know
yeah,
why.
if a 5'4" photographer, can I take a picture of your daughter? Like a gremlin.
Yeah, but if you're like,
the shorter
hey.
you are, the more gremlin
But if you're
troll
like
you are.
goofy, kind
Yeah.
of, and you're like, hey, okay. And if you have a nice camera, too, people are like, oh, what the hell? This guy's legit.
And you have so much of your actual like booklets and stuff. You have so much content.
It's true.
Like you're so obsessed with film photography and you have so much like on your Instagram and shit.
It's true,
like,
and I'm also-
it's
yeah.
so easily validated. Like, yeah, I'm that guy. These
yeah.
are all portraits is kind of my thing.
It's true, yeah. And I have a weird obsession with strangers. I don't know why that is. You know what I mean? It's kind of the opposite of you, where I always impose. You
No,
know what I
I
meing?
don't, yeah.
I got that.
That's
I got
white
that,
privilege.
I was gonna say,
that's
I
white
got
privilege.
that colonial.
That's
that
white
colonial
privilege.
hangover.
Yo, that's the episode's title, white privilege.
That's
no,
what-
you're
that's
like,
the-
fuck
that's
you,
the
bro.
colonial.
I'm just gonna take a picture and be
That's
like
right.
this and call it white privilege.
That's
You're like,
right.
what the fuck?
I see a black family, and I'm like, I can get points for this.
Yeah, right?
Then I just call
I
him.
interacted with
He's
them.
like, I just.
Are you guys poor? Please say yes. Oh god.
Please. Actually, can you get that?
Do you have a food stamp you could hold up? Oh my god, that would be amazing.
Can you
I
get
get
that
it if
baby?
you don't.
Get that baby crying again, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you mind? Yeah.
Now, do you guys have a crack pipe on you? I know. I just.
Does your son have a bike that's a little too big? Because I'd love to. I'd love to take a photo of that. All right, there you go.
But yeah, man. No, don't even worry about your Instagram handle, Calaboo, or I don't know why you call it.
Calacaboo.
I'll
It's an old
plug it.
inside joke. But
And
yeah.
everything that I'm putting out soon. What? How many things? Let's see. Comedians roasting cars. That's
Yo.
a concept show that we have filmed now. Me, Conrad, and my man here filmed it.
Blah, blah,
We're
blah.
working on editing that. We'll cut an episode, throw it out to you
Oh, yeah,
people.
that'll be silly.
And we need to get the last scene of Micers and put that
Yeah,
shit
that's
out.
true. Yeah, we got to shoot that
Now
last
that
thing.
there's snow on the ground.
That's true. We just need Max to grow his hair.
Yeah, I think he's good now.
Okay, word.
Yeah.
All right,
But anyways, from my end, y'all, I appreciate y'all listening. Just tell at least one friend about the Immigrant Section. If y'all fuck with what we're doing here, we just want to grow it. I'm not putting any money on Facebook ads or any of that shit. Organic growth or nothing else, okay? I ain't
Grassroots.
going nowhere.
Grassroots.
Check out bonus episodes on the Patreon. I throw out bonus episodes, the audio and the video, and some extra like behind the scenes stuff. If you like what I'm doing here, support that. It's really appreciated. Tell my family that I'm not failing, okay? Please, I need this.
And tell my family that too. No, I'm just kidding.
Start with mine.
Sorry for
You
the
know?
interruption.
But yeah, besides that, I appreciate y'all so much. Wherever you're at, click subscribe. And until next time, love y'all. Peace.